Yeah, I mean, we're already live. Everyone can see here, it's HEX Talks, and everyone's just, who's just listening. This is another episode of the HEX Collective podcast. Today I have here Chris Rumpf, or as we would call it in German, Rumpf.
I'm a good German American.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
And we're connected. I'm in Berlin, and you are in?
I'm in Austin, Texas today.
Woohoo! So, yeah, that's really excited that this is happening. We tried a few times, difficult sometimes to get this done with all the other stuff that's going on, but I'm even more happy that it's finally, we can do this. So,
it's so nice to see you.
So nice to see you too, man.
It's been 7 months since my last Vincent sighting.
Okay. So I mean, let's dive right in. Why don't you tell us all about yourself a little bit? This is all about keeping the family alive. Keeping this collective going, and then it's all about talking about some cool things that you like to do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's been your journey through life so far? And yeah.
Well, I'm one of those you're going to love me or hate me kind of people because I'm an only child. So I think it's great. I think everybody should only have one kid because my life was so damn amazing. All of my friends that have siblings are like, don't you wish that you had a brother? And the answer is no.
Okay.
In fact, my mother told me this story not a long time ago, but I was like in my late teenage years. And apparently, so my mom miscarried with another boy when I was 6. And apparently, as a 6-year-old, I can't even imagine what this must have done to my poor mother. But as a 6-year-old, I was comforting my mother, and my 6-year-old brain thought, I should tell my mom this. And I did. And I said, Mom, it's okay. I didn't want a little brother anyway.
Okay. Wow.
So
holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So I grew up in Ohio, and I lived there pretty much my whole life until I met this girl who lived in Austin, and now I kind of live in Austin and bounce back and forth. But yeah, listen, I had the best childhood ever. Like we were pretty poor growing up, but I had so much love in my house, and I stole all the love. Like my mom was an only child too, so I was the only grandkid on my mom's side, which was awesome. So I got doted on all the time. And interestingly enough, I spent pretty much every weekend at my grandparents' house until the time I was like 9 or 10, which was awesome. And so my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side, they really shaped a lot of who I am and who I was. Like my grandma was an amazing cook and an amazing baker, and just like, you talk about like unconditional love. Like I could do no wrong, but in the best of ways, when I did wrong, I got the love. And my granddad was an engineer by education, but an engineer and tinkerer of life, but he was also really funny. And so I get my humor from him. I also get my lead foot from him, which is good. I drive way too fast.
You drive fast, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you said Ohio, and you were poor, so you were this poor country boy, basically.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I lived in a town that had 300,000 people, so it was like the biggest small town ever. I still go back home and I walk down the street or whatever, and I'm like, I know all of these people. Why is that the thing?
Hey, wait, but I think Reno has copyrighted that slogan, the biggest small town in the world.
Yeah,
so you have to be careful what you say.
That's true. I've never really spent time in Reno. I hear it's a pretty terrible place. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody from? I don't know. So yeah, that's my world. But Saturday mornings, my granddad and I we would get up early, and we would. He was a tinkerer of cars too, and he would always have a VW Bug, which was a car that he always liked. So he'd always have one that he was tinkering with, and they were always red, and they always had a sunroof. He had 3 of them, same damn car. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what makes somebody like take the exact same car apart 3 times and then buy a different one of the same car, but he did, and he enjoyed it. But we would end up on Saturdays. We would end up somewhere, watching some method of transportation. We'd be at the the rail yard, you know, where they have the big hill and then they slide the cars down and put them on the separate side tracks to build trains, or be out at the airport watching stuff, or we'd be at the boat ramp watching boats or whatever. Right.
Cool.
And so that whole engineering thing really kind of shaped my whole life. So when my granddad passed away, he left me a few $1,000, and you know, I was like 24, and I was like, man, I could blow this money, I could invest this money, but I had some faith in myself that I was going to make at least like $6,000 in my life, and so I thought, well, what can I spend this on that my granddad would really love?
At least $6,000. How what's that? Where does that?
Yeah, because he left me $6,000. You know, we were
okay.
poor,
so you thought, okay, 6,000, and you can invest that and make
yeah.
that amount.
I could make $12,000 in like a decade if I just gave, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna make $12,000 in a decade. I'm gonna be okay. I have faith in myself.
Yeah.
I don't have faith in many things, but myself, I suppose I do. And so I got a pilot's license, which was pretty much the most amazing, coolest, wonderful, most awesome thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm married, and I'm saying that publicly. But
yeah. Okay. So and this is really cool. I mean, because I mean that's what I definitely know about you. That this is your one of your passions. And I mean, I saw the pictures that you were posting. And obviously, when we were at Burning Man, you did the shift at the airport in the control tower. So this is really amazing. And I have to say, I'm this like tinkering with cars. I mean, this is really something that I was never able to do, because in my family, no one cared about cars, and we didn't really have that opportunity in Berlin. You would just own a car, and then if you have a problem, you just take it to probably maybe a friend or someone who could fix it. But this is something I was always curious about. So this only the last few years, I'm kind of like hoping that at some point maybe I can do that too, and have a little bit of play around like with that. But with the new cars, I mean, it's impossible. I think you need an old car.
Yeah, the irony is that from a technology engineering, computer engineering standpoint, like I'm your dude. Like I have a mind for it. I can go really in depth into it and understand and explain. You get into mechanical engineering, deer in a headlight. Like I got nothing. If you ask me to work on a car, I just look at you and not do anything.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Yeah. And but what about the planes? Like when you fly airplanes, do you know how everything works? Like the engine?
I mean, I kind of know. I fly really old airplanes. The airplane that I fly in Toledo is a 1968 Piper Archer. And it still has ashtrays in it and a working carburetor. So now I got to be honest, don't really know what a carburetor does. I just know it has one. Has something to do with it. I know that fuel injectors replace carburetors, but I don't understand. I got nothing. Yeah. The irony is I did my check ride to like actually, your practical exam to get a pilot's license, where somebody who's way smarter than you waves a magic wand over your head and says, you are actually smart enough to safely fly this by yourself. And like we were flying through the ground portion, I was spitting off all kinds of stuff. And then he got into like the mechanical stuff, and he was like, if you lose this in your engine, like what instruments will fail? And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. And he goes, are you a tech person? Like you work in computers? I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, well, you're not going to understand any of this then. So I don't know. It was bad. But yeah, I don't have a clue. Like I get that there are like pistons and fuel injectors and spark plugs, but like I'm just spitting off words that I know.
And there's a propeller at the front.
Yeah, but I mean that one's easy. You see that.
You don't see all the other crap. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what goes on under the hood. I just know something makes it spin.
Could be just like an electric motor and a battery, and then that's it.
Well,
no, but
they're trying to build those.
Yeah. Oh, they are definitely. Yeah. But say again, when did you get that license? Was it like you were 24 and then you had that bit of cash and then you went for it straight away?
Yeah. How old was? No, I guess I was younger than that. How old was I? I was 22 when I did that. I got my license in 2004. Wow. Yeah.
And where did that come from? That idea? I mean, how did that happen? Like, what?
I mean, I've always been into planes. I remember, as like a I don't know how old I was, maybe 9 or 10. I was at a buddy's house, and they had Prodigy. Do you remember Prodigy? Not the amazing band, but like the internet provider Prodigy in the US was like the precursor to America Online. So they had Prodigy, and then they had like Microsoft Flight Simulator, like the really bad one. And but you know, the kid's parents were, I don't know, they were nice to him or something. They got him the little yoke, you know, you attach the computer, and we would just sit and play that thing for hours. And I mean, you know, we were 9, we were terrible, we were crashing planes left and right, but it was so cool. There was an airport in Chicago that in the late 80s or early 90s rather, Mayor Daley like literally sent bulldozers out to bulldoze the runway because he didn't want the airport there anymore. But it was right in downtown. Called Meigs Field, and so you would always start like at Meigs Field, this little Cessna in that first flight simulator game, and so I just always thought that was really cool. And then
was that the one? Was that the one on the lake, or was that like yeah? Because I remember exactly that as well, because I used to play that too, and I remember you could either have a Cessna or a Learjet, and then what I would try to do, which is like I think the only thing, because I didn't have enough patience to do like crazy stuff where I remember some people would actually do like these intercontinental flights and just leave the program running for 8 hours. So I could, you know, never interested in that. But I remember you would take off from that field and then you would fly towards downtown. You could see the Sears Tower and the John Hancock Tower, and then you would hook a left and then go to O'Hare and land at O'Hare. But that's all, and obviously then it was almost a joke flying into Sears Tower if you didn't make the turn or just for the hell of it, and I remember there was so that's because I'm actually a plane buff as well. I used to with a friend of mine, we used to collect these like special magazines, like these airplane magazines, but all kinds of stuff. Sometimes it's like collectibles, sometimes like a monthly magazine. And also we had these little metal airplanes from all sorts of airlines, and we would actually use these Lego streets to build a big airport with just like two buildings, and then we would spend hours just rearranging the planes and just taking off and putting the ones to the side who are just airborne. So for hours, that's why my mom still talks about it, because sometimes would cover like the entire living room and would just run through the entire apartment and be like, Arr.
I would do the same thing, but with masking tape, like painter's tape, and like I would build airports on the floor, like using the tape to mark the runways and all that other stuff. Ridiculous.
Cool. So and then you played Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then that got you hooked, basically.
Yeah, I mean that was part of it. Even before then, I was in. I mean, we were out. I was 5-6 years old. We were hanging out at the airport. Before 9/11, you could just walk around the airport. You go through the metal detector, and people hang out. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like I was a little kid that was like meeting pilots and watching airplanes and stuff. And then I was maybe like 11 or 12. I went to a family reunion, and apparently, I don't know, like a third uncle, or I don't know who he was, but he owned a couple of airplanes and he was giving people free rides, and I got to ride right seat with that. And he was like, yeah, go ahead and fly it around. And so I was like 11 or 12 and got to take the yoke in an actual airplane and mess around for a few minutes. And I was like, this is amazing. And
I guess we still remember those good old days where you could actually, go visit the cockpit as well on a regular flight, or actually, I remember, now that you mentioned it, I remember that too. My uncle, who lives in south of Germany, he used to work at Munich Airport in air traffic control, and Munich Airport, the new one was opened sometime, I don't know, 97 or something, or maybe early 2000s. But when I visited him once in the 90s, or even early 90s, maybe even wow, no, could have been 80s even. At the old airport, he was able to just pick me up right from the plane. So I landed coming in from Berlin, and then right where you step off the plane, there's a little staircase. So he picked me up and then took me for a ride in one of those follow me cars, just around the airport. No, I mean, no security, nothing. So good old days.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I started a tradition a while ago. I don't remember what it was, but I like probably 15 years ago. Like I'm an introvert. which is surprising to a lot of people because I'm pretty good at pretending to be an extrovert, but I'm an introvert.
Surprising.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not good at like asking for things, you know. I'm an only kid. I go it alone, you know. And so maybe 15 years ago, I always, on a birthday and Christmas, I always buy myself, like me personally, myself one present, like as a gift to myself, which is a really wonderful thing. And in 2004, like, you know, January 2nd or something, I bought myself a $50 intro flight because my grandfather had passed away in like October. He left me a little bit of cash. So for Christmas, I got myself an intro flight for $50, which is basically you go out to the little airport, you hang out with a guy or not guy, you know, there are female pilots now, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
You hang out with some sort of an instructor and they walk you around a plane. And in my case, it was a guy, very arrogant one, but he knew how to fly an airplane. And walk you around the plane, show you what's going on, you know, whatever. You sit left seat, which is the you know, pilot seat, and he'll help you taxi it out to the runway. He'll help you take it off. You get to fly it around. You line it up for the runway, and then he lands it for you. And yeah, I was hooked. Totally screwed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you, that's, I have to just remark something here, because I thought was really cool. Because when he said that, yeah, there's now female pilots as well. I mean, obviously they've been around for quite a few decades, but I saw the other day that there's the first black
the black fighter pilot.
Pilots for the Navy.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So cool. You know,
because I guess the Navy is even more challenging because you have to land on a carrier, right? So it's that's crazy.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, it would be cool, but I would rather be the one riding, not flying. I don't know that I want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of like,
tell me about the flight again. So you went on that flight and then 2004 and then.
Yeah, I was totally hooked, and so I had this money burning a hole in my pocket, and I found a flight club in Toledo that had a handful of planes and a guy that was interested in teaching me how to fly. And so he and I would hang out every Sunday for a couple hours, and we'd go up and fly around. And it took like maybe nine and a half months, something like that, to get the license. You've got to have a minimum of 40 flight hours. So it took like 9 months to.
Is that the PPL license then that you got?
In the US, it would be an SEL, which is single engine land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have a single engine and you have to be able to land.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah. By land meaning not a seaplane, which I've got a few hours in a seaplane, and that is pretty much the coolest contraption ever. Like boats are fun, right?
Yeah.
And then like airplanes are fun, right? And so you're hanging out, and you're like, oh, this is cool. I'm on a boat.
Yeah, that must be
and they're like, no, I'm not on a boat anymore. And then you're like, oh, just kidding. I am on a boat again.
Yeah, that's spectacular. Yeah. So have you been on one of those?
I've got 4 hours in a seaplane. When I go out to Seattle, I try to get an hour of time, and seaplanes are getting really expensive, so I haven't done it in a few years. But to go out to Seattle and in like Lake Union, you see the Space Needle right there, and there's a seaplane base in Lake Union, so they've got a water runway marked out, and it's really amazing. The topography out there is beautiful, and to be able to fly from there over to Lake Washington, which is kind of on the other side of the peninsula, and then back, it's unreal. How do
they mark out the runway on the water? Do they have like buoys or something?
Just buoys. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
And so I assume that now you've gone beyond the SEL, because if you can actually fly a seaplane, you must have had some additional training or like another license or something.
Yeah, I've never finished the seaplane stuff. You need a minimum of 10 additional hours in a seaplane to get the endorsement to be able to do the single engine seaplane. So I've never done it. Like I said, it's expensive. I don't know anybody that owns a seaplane. you know? So it's not like,
so when you get on it, you get on it as a passenger, you mean? Like
well, I mean, I've got 4 hours of flying one, like with an instructor, right?
Ah, okay, got you. Yeah.
So I've done that in Seattle a couple of times, but you know, there's nobody that I know in Austin and nobody I know in Ohio that has one to be able to kind of go and hang with one. But they're a blast.
Is there even enough water in Austin to have a runway on the water? I mean, I have no idea about the topography in Austin, or is it very green?
You know, Austin is actually really green. It's not like the rest of Texas. The Colorado River runs through Austin. And so there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of greenery and stuff. So yeah, there would be spots for it, but I don't know anywhere, you know, I never see any of them flying around, you know.
You could be the first, maybe.
No, planes are like boats, friend. You just want other people to own them and you want to reap the benefits.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then back to your license. So it took you like about 9 months, and this was more or less. Yeah. So this was with an instructor.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you get the SEL, and then you can just rent a plane basically, like a Cessna.
Yeah. I found a guy in Toledo in Ohio that's got an old 1968 Archer, and I basically have a 1/10 share. So there's 10 of us that kind of go in on this airplane together.
Oh, right. Okay. Plane sharing.
Basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So I pay a couple of bucks a month just to, you know, keep the plane overhauled and stuff. And then I pay for it when I use it.
Cool. And what kind of flights do you go on when you rent it out? I mean, what do you do?
So,
what do you like to do?
You know, if you're familiar with the geography of like Northwest Ohio, there are a number of islands out in Lake Erie that are really close to Toledo. And so it's a blast to, you know, get in the airplane and fly 12, 15 minutes. And then you're landing on an island in the middle of the, you know, Great Lake. And, you know, you feel like you're on a little mini vacation, which is nice.
Wow.
I take it a lot for business. So if we have a customer that's, you know, 400 or 500 miles away, it ends up being about the same price to fly that as it would commercially in a lot of cases. And so I've had some pretty cool experiences there. Last month I flew down to Nashville for the day, and you know, by car it's like an 8.5 hour drive. By plane it's like 2:45, which is pretty cool. So just, you know, sit back and relax, so to speak. But I've done some really fun stuff. A couple of years ago, I had some work in Des Moines, Iowa, which is about a 3-hour flight from Toledo. And then from there, I had to go down to St. Louis and then to Bloomington, Indiana, and then to Chicago to speak at a conference. And so like I had like 3 days of just amazing flights, you know, flying through Chicago as, you know, in a single engine plane was really amazing. You know, you're hanging out and there's all these huge aircraft everywhere. And then landing in Chicago was a pretty cool experience.
Which airport did you land in?
So in Chicago, it's really expensive to land at O'Hare or Midway. So I just landed at a little, you know, like one runway airport, just a little south of the city, and then just drove in. But I have landed at like Detroit Metro. I've landed at, you know, Cincinnati and Louisville and Nashville, and it's not a big deal at a lot of them. But you know, some of the really, really busy airports like Chicago and New York are pretty much controlled out for single engine folks like me, unfortunately. But yeah, it was fun. I had to pick somebody up at the Detroit airport when I was in Toledo once, and it was a beautiful day. So I just flew the airplane up there, and you know, they were like, "Okay, where's your car?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't bring it." You know, that was fun.
Okay.
But
cool. Yeah, I mean, actually, I just had the idea if I was able to share the screen here, take a look at the map, but I'm not sure how that actually works. So I can't find the button. That would have been cool for maybe the people watching this video to take a look at where Toledo actually is, because I've never Googled that or looked at that on Google Maps, but I have now. So that is pretty interesting. So that's on the other side of, it's like
it's on the west. It's on the western basin of Lake Erie, about halfway between Cleveland and Chicago, and about 50 miles south of Detroit.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was in Toronto last October, and then I was trying to figure out what the best and actually also the fastest and the cheapest way is to get from Toronto to New York. And then at first I actually checked buses from Toronto to Detroit, and then to get on a flight from Detroit, because at the time the flights from Detroit to New York were really cheap. But then I figured out a way how to get like a really good deal with some of the miles that I had left. But
that's awesome.
But anyway, so Toledo, that's interesting. So Ohio, but and the rest of Ohio is just, I mean, I always picture it as just flat land, more or less, because we always think like from Europe, Ohio is like it's just farmland basically. Is that correct?
Oh, Ohio is interesting. You know, Toledo, where I'm at, is very flat. So you get outside of the Toledo city limits, so to speak. You drive 10 miles and you're in the corn, so to speak. In fact, one of the suburbs of Toledo literally has a corn festival for the harvest in August or September, which is hilarious. But Northwest Ohio is definitely flat. When you get into Eastern Ohio, you start to get into if you're familiar with like the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, you kind of get over to the eastern side of Cleveland, and it starts to get some exciting topography. And then down south, you start getting into the Appalachian Mountains. So you get down Cincinnati, Athens, Chillicothe, some of those cities down in there, Marietta, in the southeastern portion of the state, or the very, very far southern portion of the state. And you get some really beautiful topography, kind of rolling down into the Ohio River there.
Nice. Yeah, this is also something that it's funny how you mentioned that you flew into one of those small airports in Chicago. This is something that it's so different when you live in Germany and geographically it's a small country, and we have some big airports, and obviously we have some smaller airports as well. But I mean, in terms of space, it's the comparison is ridiculous, right? I mean, it's like the US is like 50 times bigger than Germany. So just it makes so much more sense to be flying everywhere, even at during COVID times, there's still a lot of air traffic, I assume, or that's at least what I'm getting from the from what I can tell. But this makes it also for me as a plane buff as well, pretty exciting to think about, that you can just fly everywhere across the US. I mean, here I only know one friend who had this big, his dream was also to go on a single engine plane and just fly to like a relatively long trip. So he flew to France, I think to Quiberon, which is somewhere on the coast. And he told me about this trip, and he said that he pictured it like really nice, and obviously the flying was amazing. But he said also that apparently whenever they were airborne, there was just a lot of fumes in the cockpit for some reason. So he was like getting a headache the whole time or something, and they had to make 6 stops or something on the way because it's just a small plane.
Well, that sounds less than safe.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know what happened there, but yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Ohio is just that like there's an airport in almost every county.
Yeah.
So like, from a general aviation standpoint, there's people everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, is Hillary there as well? Has she arrived?
She just walked downstairs.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So so and now so where are we in terms of like when was this when you talked about this trip to Chicago?
I think Chicago was 3 years ago.
Oh, right. Okay. And I assume that so and how often do you go flying? How often do you do it?
I mean, it always depends, but not often enough, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of it just depends when there's time. Like I'm in Austin right now. I'm heading back to Ohio in 2 weeks, so I've got the plane reserved to go down to Southern Ohio to visit my bride's family for a couple of days. So we'll do stuff like that, and it really just depends. I probably fly between 40 and 60 hours a year, which is it's a fair amount. You know, I'm not flying for a profession, I suppose, but I did have a goal at one time that, you know, if the business that I have ever failed, I was going to move to Alaska and just fly bush and be a pilot.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, this kind of reminds me of what I've always been fascinated about is planes that can drop water on forest fires.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, that's when you see that, that's just unbelievable. And just the way that they come up with, I think there's some planes where you can actually, they don't actually have to land to take the water in, but they can like sort of skim the surface of a lake and then fill up these compartments and then take off again. It's like seaplanes, and then they go straight to wherever the fire is, drop the water, and then do these runs, until they have to refuel. And then there's other types. I think they even made a jumbo jet 747 into one of those planes. But with that one, I think that doesn't work with the skimming the surface of a lake. I think that you have to actually land the plane, fill up the tank and the whole thing, and then you're there. But I mean, also incredibly dangerous, of course, as well, because you have to fly so low and just get the angle right. And
yeah, it's those planes are crazy. They call those water bombers.
And
I just sent you a link in the chat to my favorite like water bomber YouTube video that shows a video from the cockpit of people landing on a lake somewhere in Europe, it looks like, and they fill it up with water and then take off, and they're 50 feet above like a river cruise line ship.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Really crazy.
Awesome. So the water bomber. Do you know the term raisin bomber?
No,
that's what. Do you know the Berlin airlift? The story of the Berlin airlift? Yeah. So and for just a quick context for people who don't know it, listening to this. So after the Second World War and before, Germany was occupied, by obviously in Western Germany by the Western Allies, U.S., Britain, and France, and then the eastern part of Germany by the Russians. And then at some point, I think it was like 1947, so 2 years after the war, or maybe 1948, the Russians decided to close the border between, sort of the separation, like right down the middle of Germany, which later on, led to the separation of Germany into two parts, and cutting off West Berlin, because that was a special case. So everything in East Germany was occupied by the Russians, but Berlin was like a mini Germany. The western half of Berlin was also occupied by the Western Allies, and the east was also belonged to the Russians or the Soviets. So they decided at some point to sort of just blockade West Berlin, because they assumed that they could make the Western Allies leave if they just shut down everything and let no one in, because West Berlin was dependent on all the food and fuel and all kinds of things getting into West Berlin. So they shut that down. And then the Western Allies, obviously led by the US, just mobilized everything they had in terms of airplanes from all the airports in Germany that they could get up and running. And they even built a new airport in Berlin specifically for that purpose, which then became the main airport of Berlin as well, which is in Tegel. So they flew in, and then at some point, the story was that there was this British, it's an American pilot of one of the freighter planes, who would, when you were coming in to land, all the kids, the Berlin children would run around and just salute the planes coming in to land, because they obviously knew what was going on. They were, the people, the pilots, and everyone were already heroes to them, and it was. And then also, it's totally fascinating having a plane land every 30 to 45 seconds. It was unbelievable, that kind of enterprise that they did. So this American pilot, his name was Gail Halverson, then had this idea to attach packets of sweets to little parachutes, and he would just drop them as he was coming into land. He would drop them out of the window of the plane for the kids that were waiting at the airport. So So yeah, and people started calling the planes then the raisin bombers because just a few years before it was wartime, Berlin was totally devastated by the real bombers. So those were the raisin bombers, bringing in sweets and supplies and everything. So it's an absolutely incredible feat. And they actually had actually the school that my son goes to is named after Gail Halvorsen, and he's actually still alive. He's like, I think 90 or something, and he came over to Berlin I think 2 years ago for the 50 or the 60th anniversary of the airlift, or even 70th. I don't know. Oh, I'll have to look it up.
That's so cool. I knew the story, but I didn't know the guy's name or the term.
Yeah, it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, so they named the school after him. I even found this. It's amazing. I found a picture of him in one of these like history books that I have. It's unbelievable, and I could show it to my son. Yeah, because it was I think it's a book about the Cold War, and there was the photo of him as a young pilot with all these, like a pile of these little packets of sweets with these parachutes on, and so spectacular. And my son actually went to this event where he came over from the US, and they had a big ceremony near the Central Airport, which has now been shut for the last more than 10 years. But that was like one of the main airports at the time, where actually the building, the whole airport more or less the big building was built by the Nazis at the time. And for a while, this building actually, side story, was the biggest building in the world in terms of size, like, space area. And then it was overtaken by the Pentagon. So for a while, it was the biggest building in the world, and then the Pentagon was built, apparently. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that airport's like a big park now, right?
Yeah. It's called the Tempelhofer Feld, and they kept the two runways and all the other supporting, like, roads, if you want to call it, the taxiways. They kept it. So there's a like a circular taxiway that you can go on, and there's a lot of skaters and sometimes even like kite surfers, but obviously not with a surfboard, but with like a skateboard type thing. And you have certain areas where you can fly drones, and you can do all kinds of other stuff, and then you can have barbecue areas and like these dog like fenced in areas where you can just let dogs run. It's a really cool, really cool space. It's really nice because it's huge. And at the northern end also, there's a few other places like a beer garden and a little burger place, and so it's really, really good.
That's awesome. I've spent time in Munich and Frankfurt, but I haven't been to Berlin, and it's definitely someplace I need to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yes, you should come. Yeah, and revisit some of your German roots, maybe even. By the way, do you know anything about your that part of your ancestry? Just out of curiosity.
No, I know very, very little about it, other than people from Germany with my same last name like friend me on Facebook once in a while, and I'm like, I don't know who you are, but we're friends now.
Okay. Wow.
But
that's funny.
In the U.S., what I do know is there's only 6,000 of folks with my surname in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, I'm close. I have to be careful because I think my the Gressikers, my last name, that's almost died out. There's maybe like 20 or 30 people in Germany with that name. It's really rare. So yeah, I'm putting all my trust in my kids to have more kids and keep that lineage going.
Yeah, you're endangered.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, endangered species, basically, more or less. So yeah, it's I mean, I don't know, this whole flying thing. I mean, I really I hope to at some point, I don't know how to say it, but to explore that more as well, because I really love it. I guess the last 15, 20 years, I've been able to, fly a lot as a passenger, because I was also with my job, I was flying around everywhere. So I got to at least enjoy that quite frequently as well. And now with Corona, obviously there's nothing going on, but
right.
Oh, well, yeah. But I've started looking at maybe going to Toronto one more time in maybe New Year's or maybe a little bit later rather than Toronto going to Costa Rica. Apparently, some of the folks from Toronto are planning a trip to go there. So
listen, I got time.
Goes. Hey, yeah, you just come on over. Yeah. By the way, what I wanted to ask you as well, what is it you do for a living? Like, you have a business as well, or?
Oh man, yeah. If I could make money in music, I would. I did that for a long time as a concert promoter and stuff, but I've always been technical. So, I've always had some sort of like tech side of things. And when music kind of dried up in the early 2000s, that big 90s like growth scene kind of backed away and became difficult. So I started a tech company. We've been around for like 14 years. We do stuff for restaurant primarily, and then retail, hotels, and self-storage. That is kind of like a secondary hustle on it. And we just try to unify the technology in those ecosystems. So like for a restaurant, we're taking care of the internet that comes in, your televisions, phones, phone service, point of sale, credit cards, all that payment type stuff. And how do you facilitate customer loyalty and engagement and gift cards and scheduling and payroll and reservations and online and ordering and, Uber Eats, and how do you integrate all of that stuff? So trying to make a very seamless solution for restaurants to do their bidding day in and day out. So we're having a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah. So, and this is like how long has this company been around? Oh, I think you're on
Zoom.
Yeah.
We've been around for almost 15 years. So it'll be 15 years next year. And we've pivoted a number of different ways, but we've been primarily in restaurants for like the last 8 years, which has been a lot of fun. So I'm just rolling off as a board of director at like my industry association. So I'm happy to kind of finally be done with that after 6 years. But it's been a lot of fun getting to know the industry and understanding what's going on. And there are a lot of industries that are predominantly older and predominantly male, and so like this is one. And so it's been a lot of fun to be at the time like much younger. Now I'm starting to become one of those old chubby white guys myself. But
you're not chubby.
It's been, yeah, that's true. I'm working on it. But it's been a lot of fun to kind of be a big fish in a small pond there and really help move people forward in restaurants. And it's a blast to be in restaurants. I'm a total foodie. I love food. I think that the best way to share a culture is through food and music. So to do that in this industry has been a lot of fun. And I've been really lucky over the course of the last couple of years of my life to be in a situation where I have a staff of people that are awesome and have allowed me to take a little bit of time off and follow some other passions. And so last year I was out on tour with a band that I used to book and tour managing them and running the front of house for them. And
what was the band? Wasn't it? What's the name?
The band's called May, MAE, and I've known those folks for like 20 years. And so they got back together and started touring a couple of years ago. And so we started hanging out, and it's I'm totally right-brained. I just, I'm a nerd, and I want to be left-brained. I want to be creative and have all that stuff. And,
interesting.
Unfortunately, I'm just not. And so it's been amazing to be around those creative people because I'm able to take that and like bring it back into the business and make it more creative. So it's been a lot of fun to do that. And,
so you were a roadie basically for a while with them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh. Excellent.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can see, but this restaurant part or the company with the restaurant, you're transitioning out of that now? Did I get that right?
No. I'm trying to just, nobody wants to get burnt out. We all, in this day and age, especially in America, like we just work and work and work ourselves to death, And so I've really been using that outlet as an avenue to stay creative and keep the passion running high in the tech side of the business,
Yeah.
So to go spend a couple of weeks and be on the road with a bunch of insanely talented, creative people and be around great music every night and have these philosophical, discussions that are just way different than what I would have otherwise it's so refreshing to then, come back and work again in the business and just have this wealth of inspiration that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
So I'm really lucky.
Yeah, that's a cool balance, I would say, between different things. I'm trying to figure that out as well, and I think I'm getting on the right track now as well. I mean, for me, I just basically, actually, this is like pretty recent development. This is only wait, today's the 4th of August. Yeah, this is the fourth day as a free man after 15 and a half years with one company.
That's amazing.
So I just left on, Saturday was my first day out, and I mean, I have nothing but good, not just, okay, well, I was going to say good memories. That's not true. I have some bad memories as well, but I have nothing but gratitude, and there was just a sense of it was the right thing to do for a long time. It was pretty amazing. I was in consulting, so I got to learn. I mean, learned a lot. Saw so many places. I got to live in different cities, and in Europe, that's the cool thing. Since you have so many countries very close by, I was and if you have a bit of luck as well, but which I had at the time, I was able to spend 6 months in Dublin in Ireland. I was 6 weeks in Barcelona, Spain. Spent 6 months in Vienna, Austria. Then another 6 months, like literally, is only like an hour's drive from there in Bratislava, which is capital of Slovakia. So I got to see all these places, but now after that time, it feels right, and and I think while I was doing that job, almost like I guess in a similar way as you explained how you do it. Yeah, also with plus we have the flying as well. I always needed like a different outlet as well to be more creative, because even in consulting where you can be creative, but you have to, it's very stringent things also you have to do. So it's different things. And I think for the last few years, I mean, Burning Man was certainly one thing. Then this podcasting or video idea that I had. I mean, that's been a blast, and I'm actually going to start a business around that as well. So that's what's next for me. But also, looking at other things as well. Yeah, I've come to the conclusion that I don't have that one thing that I want to focus on. And it kind of held me back for a while. Yeah, when I was, because obviously for a long time I knew what was going to happen. Yeah, I was going to transition out of that profession and look for something else. And then, when you know that you want to be self-employed, you want to start your own venture, that kind of thing. You hear it so many times that people tell you, you have to focus on that one thing. That has to be that one thing, otherwise, it's not going to work. And at some point I thought, oh, screw that. Why? I can, if it's something small that works, I can delegate stuff, and I can, create value for someone, with a product or a service. And it just, and I have a clear role, how to keep that running, and then build a model around that. Why not do something else as well? Yeah. So,
totally.
So yeah. So the other thing that I'm actually doing is what I'm focusing on is coaching people, helping people negotiate higher salaries. Like when they maybe that they're looking at a promotion, or maybe it's been a while since they've been at the same level, or maybe they found a new job or something. It's kind of a coincidence. I came up, someone recommended someone to me. And I worked with them, and it was just extremely fulfilling and very successful, helping my female client to I think the increase was like 30% year on year, and it's just amazing. So I'm doing that too now as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I just actually today I had lunch with another person, and it looks like I'm gonna work with her as well. So. It's cool. I finally get to focus just on the things that I want to do. So
that's fantastic. I was just talking. I mean, I've talked about this a number of times in the last couple of weeks for whatever reason, but it's like, all of the things that you're supposed to learn in school to be a well-rounded individual, and then all of the things that you don't learn. And one of the ones that's always the top on my list is like negotiation skills.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's so easy for us as individuals to just like kind of take what we get, rather than really trying to decide what is value, and how do we calculate value, and all of that other stuff.
It's so true. And I've been reading a lot about it. Also, I've been working with some guys who were starting up this little company as well, where they only specialize on that. So that would be too much for me, but they are doing great. And actually I have a if you're interested, let me just pick up the book here that I read the other day. which I also saw from, maybe you know the guy, maybe you know the book. It's by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
I haven't read that one. That's awesome.
I highly recommend this. This is amazing. Yeah, this guy used to be a negotiator for the FBI. I mean, you can see YouTube videos on this really cool guy, and it has some really simple tips. And it was funny because I've just even yesterday, I think, when I went through all the paperwork from my previous job, I have a big binder full of stuff, with all the salary sheets and all that stuff, and different contracts that I had. Whenever I got a promotion, you get a new contract. And I looked at the old, like my first salary offer that they offered me straight after I was in the assessment center. And I looked at it and I thought, thinking back how excited I was so happy. I was so happy because I wanted to work for the company and it was awesome. But knowing now what this guy says and what should be probably common sense is like, I could have probably said, for the first offer, I could say, well, I want 20% more than that. And then maybe, even if they would have said no, at least would have tried it. Maybe they said, well, we can give you 10% more or something. So, but at the time, I was clueless. Didn't even occur to me that I could, maybe, get a little bit more. I mean, I was still happy, so they paid really well. It was fine. But this is definitely something. And as you said, this negotiation topic, I'm to be honest, I'm not good at that either. It scares me. I'm a very amiable guy, so it's very difficult for me to be disagreeable, in a sense. But there's some things definitely in this book that I think are going to help me the next time. Maybe I want to buy like a car or something, to maybe get a better deal than just accepting like the sticker price.
What's like the one nugget that you've taken away from that book?
Oh, so there's one thing which is really awesome. He says when you're going for let's say you want to buy a car, and you let's say it's a used car, but it's a quality, good, decent vehicle. You can probably do that. It doesn't matter if it's new or used, but let's just assume that. And then you have to think about, okay, what's really the maximum that you're willing to pay. And of course, if you can afford the sticker price there, then screw that, ignore that. Just go a bit lower and think about, okay, what can I actually go for? So, and then the psychological trick that he does, that he recommends in this book, is that you define that the target price that you don't want to pay more, as the 100%, and then the first offer that you make is actually at 65% of that target price that you want to have. And so 65% of that price, considering that the sticker price is even higher, I mean, that's like pretty shocking to the person selling something, right? So because that's way lower than what they are. But okay. But apparently what that does, or what he's explained it to do, is that it's such a it's the tactic. What it does with a lot of people is that they immediately go to the lowest level that they would be willing to accept. And then he says, like, okay, so after the 65, you go back, you recalculate. Then the next offer you make is at 85%, then at 95%, and then you get to like edge closer to the 100%. And this way, it appears more that there's actually a negotiation going on. The person can adjust their offer. But by entering that 65% of what you're actually willing to pay, it brings that price right down. So yeah, and then there's one other thing which is pretty funny in a way. He also says that at the very last offer that you should make, you should never go for like an even number, like $25,000. You should do something like $24,976.50 or something. And you can't just blurt that out just like that. I mean, there has to be some kind of a spiel around the whole thing. But again, what that does psychologically, it appears that you've really like sort of scraped together every last little cent that you can manage to afford, and then it appears like a well calculated, well thought through number. So it's I mean, I haven't tried that yet. I'm not sure if I ever have the situation, but I can see how that works. But I've definitely taken to heart the that idea of the 65, 85, 95, 100. And maybe one last point about my personal experience, because when I've done some negotiations, what I noticed just by coincidence, because I did all of them over the phone, whenever by coincidence I had just exercised beforehand, and what I usually do is I go for a run for maybe 45 minutes or an hour. If I'd exercised, I was much calmer. I was much more willing to be disagreeable, much more able to just bear a silence, nothing, no one says anything, and just sort of just be fine with that. Yeah.
Just to be detached.
Exactly. Yeah. That was really an eye opener for me. That was last year. It was unbelievable. So I think even if I were to, even the next time I'm going to buy a car, I'm definitely going to go, I mean, obviously, you have to, first of all, I mean, you don't have to buy the car at the first time you go there, of course, but I think if I really want to go into the next negotiation, I'm definitely going to go and get some exercise in beforehand, and then be really clear about what I want, and then have that negotiation, and not say yes immediately, but go back and forth and go through several rounds of negotiation. And this is actually what I've been doing also with the people that I work with in terms of the salary negotiations. You're never going to get what you want the first time, and that's perfectly fine. But because you also need to, the other person to be able to save face as well. Because if you say, hey, I want a higher salary, and then your boss says, okay, let's meet up, and then tell me what you want, and you say, I want this, and it says done, then that was too low, for sure. So you need to go back and forth a little bit so that he or she can raise that offer, and you can play around with whatever you came in with, and then have that kind of mutual coming together of a negotiation where each person can respect the other person, and not leaving or not agreeing not agreeing and feel cheated, or feel disappointed with the result. You don't want that.
Those are pretty good lessons.
Yeah, it's spectacular. I can really recommend this book. It's really amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we've been almost talking for an hour. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's so
Who knew?
Good to see your face as well. Yeah. What time is it now over in?
It's 11:30 in the morning here. What do you got?
Nice.
7, 6, 7?
6:30 p.m.
Oh, that's not so bad.
So it's not so bad. It's not so bad. I'm gonna go. It's still bright outside. I'm gonna go for a walk, and then maybe have some dinner or something. So
nice.
I want to. Is there anything else you want to leave us here? Do you have any words of wisdom? Maybe
words of wisdom.
Flying, maybe.
Oh my gosh. I think this is the nature of my life, and the meaning that I've learned is twofold. The first thing is, I think a lot of people ask what the meaning of life is, Yeah. And for me, I oversimplify everything, which is a whole entire conversation in and of itself. But to overly simplify,
I'm going to write this down. Yeah.
Overly simplify what the meaning of life is for me. My bride, she loves the word remarkable, and she loves the word remarkable because the definition is something worth remarking about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's really simple, and I like it. And I've had this theory for a really long time that, when I look back on my life and think about what's going to be important and how I feel fulfilled, it's not going to be about having my name on a building or what my career accomplishments were or what I did. It's going to be about what memories I have locked away of these momentary situations, these nanoseconds in time that shaped my life. I think about the moment that I asked Hillary to marry me. I think about the first time that I flew up an airplane by myself. Like, I remember that moment, and I laughed uncontrollably, and like, those moments are what I care about. And so to me, the meaning of life is just, figuring out and setting yourself up to have as many remarkable moments in your life as possible, so that you have a wonderful highlight reel. Because we don't remember days at a time. We don't remember hours at a time. We remember moments. And the more moments that we have that are meaningful to me is where I'm at. And to piggyback off of that, I think, how do you create the most opportunities to have those moments, right? And for me, it's obviously working hard. Like, everybody says money isn't everything, but there are studies that show US $70,000. Like, if you're under that, you have a propensity to be less happy. If you're over that, you basically plateau at happiness and joy. And creating these moments of joy, to me, I don't look at having money as a materialistic thing. There's nothing there for me. But listen, if I didn't have a couple extra bucks, there's no way that I could do what I'm doing, flying an airplane and traveling around and seeing people like you, going to Burning Man and learning all these new things about myself. And so working hard to be able to have the funds that I want in order to do the things that I want, right? And the things that I want, making sure that those are situations where I'm pressing myself outside my comfort zone and trying to do amazing things to make remarkable moments.
Yeah, dude, makes total sense. Nothing to add to that. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. It's beautiful.
Take me back to Burning Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Next year, hopefully.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like Burning Man, France, and Japan have just changed my whole life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, you have to tell me about that stuff too next time. Let's schedule another call, another one of these sessions, and then you have to tell me about France and Japan, and maybe even Burning Man, and then about oversimplification as well.
Yeah, dude, we have so much to talk about. You let me know when we're doing this again. We need to hang out way more than half a year apart.
Yes, yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. So, hey, thank you, man. It's been beautiful. So good to see you and to learn so many things about you. And give Hillary my regards.
I will. It's nice to see you. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Later.